Welcome. We are on the Ohio River today, and we are going to be looking for anything left over from the Stone Age past. And I'm going to explain to you why the natives left so many artifacts behind, how they're getting here, and just how old this stuff is and who may have made it. And if you're seeing this video right now, that means I've posted it and we found some nice items. Now we've brought our sifter here, our shovel, we've even brought a bucket just in case we'll need that. And I'm gonna clear a little place out here in the water to get our sifter in there, and then we'll get started. And the difficult thing about this is all these artifacts that you find on the river, they're laying under all this sand and mud, so you have to shovel them out. If you've ever walked a riverbank or above a riverbank on a flat, you've probably walked over hundreds of artifacts and didn't even know it. So we're going to start shoveling right here on the water's edge, because that seems to be usually where the most stone items gather, right on the water's edge. And then we'll work our way down the beach as we find more and more stone under that sand and mud. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get all the stone that's resting on a hard-packed clay layer that's under this whole beach. Sometimes it's a lot deeper in the mud and sand than other times. I can feel some stone down in there. I try to scoop it all off the bottom. There's a lot of stuff down there. You can feel it with the shovel. You just got to try not to go too hard and break something. Some of this stuff is very fragile. I'll fill this up a couple times and shake it down, and then we'll check and see if we got anything. We'll load it up again a few times before we check it. got something. We got something nice. Look at this. Look at this. I think there's a coin in here too or something. Look down in here. And I want you to tell me, a lot of people like to pick it out themselves. I want you to tell me, do you see it here? It's just there. Look at this. Oh, yes. It's an Adena point. Looks to be a projectile shot on a dart, or a spear as people know them. Very nice. Could be up to 3,000 years old, probably around 2,500, 2,800 years old. Let me give you a little timeline on this. Hold on. This would have been a woodland piece, a woodland era piece, and let me show you what I mean. I've drawn this out in the sand here. Now the Paleo Indians were the oldest ones they could find making projectiles and things around here. And they went all the way back to 14,000 years ago, up until about 11,000 years ago. Until the archaic times, then that was about 10,500 years ago to 3,000 years ago. Then we get into the woodland times where this piece would have made. Around 3,000 years ago up until about 1,300 years ago. And then we had the Mississippian Indians, which most people are familiar with the teepees and cowboys in Indian times. That would have been about 1,300 years ago up until European contact, around 400 or 500 years ago. And this projectile right here would have been made by the Adena culture right about in this area, about 2,500 years ago, in the woodland era. That is a very nice piece right there. And it's hard to tell just how many animals this got for dinner for people that lived right here. Now, the Paleo Indians were not the first people in North America. There's been proof of life found back long before that, as far back as almost 23,000 years in New Mexico. But things that old are so hard to find and even prove what they were. Let's check the rest of this screen, as I think there's a coin or something laying in here. Is that a coin? It looks to be an old button. I thought it was a coin, but it looks like an old button. Look right here. Is that a flake or is that... Oh, that's a leaf. Here we've got something. It looks like I can see a notch on one side of it, but it looks like it's just so shattered up. There it would have been the base or the bottom of the arrowhead right there. And it's shattered, split in half actually. More flakes. I'm not seeing anything else in this one. We'll unload this and we'll continue down the beach. This is looking really good right here. Hard to tell what we'll pull out of here. I like to keep all my recoveries in this padded case here, so when I'm carrying them out, they don't break. Let's get back at it. We got something of interest in here. We've got something of interest in here. This is a really nice one too. One of the nicer ones I've found in a while. And this would have come from the Mississippian culture, the newest that we knew, the historic Indians. Right here, do you see that? I want you to look at this. Let me get you in the sun so you can see it better. It's a piece of hematite, and you can see where these Mississippian Indians have rubbed all these flat facets on it. And look at this facet right here that they've rubbed on that. I mean, just rubbed this whole stone clear in half. It has facets all over it. And you see those little red patches in there? This is hematite. And a lot of this I know where it was found in a local creek about 5 or 6 miles of here is just loaded with natural hematite. And what's hematite? It's an iron ore. And they would have used this and rubbed this. You can see that flat area, it's been rubbed a long time. And what they do, they rub this on another sandstone and get pigment out of it. And a lot of this hematite or iron ore has a lot of iron oxide or rust in it. It gives it that red color. But a lot of it is really hard and was made for tools and such. But this one just looks like it was rubbed to get pigment for paint. And I think, have you ever seen the Himba tribe from Africa? They paint themselves head to toe with that red ochre. And I'm kind of convinced that these Mississippian Indians did the same thing. Now, why? Was it for, you know, cosmetic purposes or maybe even insect repellent? Because you can imagine the mosquitoes and how they would eat you up down here on this river without any bug spray. That's a very nice piece right there. The nicest one I've found in a while. Super facet on that. I'm not seeing anything else in here. Oh, wait a minute. Look at this. Huh, I'm just peeking out from under this stone right here. Oh, yeah. We better shake this down and check it better. Look at this. Oh, that is nice. Look how that's shaped. This is a prime example of how natives never wasted anything. This is not a projectile. What this is, it's a used up knife. Once these knives are in little handles, they're glued in there and wrapped tight. And because it was fixed in that handle so tight, they didn't want to take it out of there until they had to put a new one in. And you can see how it's laid back because they favored this one side right here. You couldn't shoot anything with this on an arrow. If you tried to shoot something with a point like this, what would happen? It would only go in the animal maybe 1/4 of an inch, but this flat side here would want to go in fast, but this long curved side would want to drag. And as soon as it started into the animal, it would kick it back like that and rip it right out of the shaft. Probably just wound the animal. Little knife blade. It's made out of Flint Ridge chert, or flint from Ohio. That's about 85 or 90 miles from here as the crow flies. Got a couple nice pieces in there. we got something very nice in here. Only problem, we only got half of it. But I've never found one made out of this material. I want you to see this. Can you see that? I thought it was just a stone at first. See how it's all squared off? I can even see abrasion marks where it's been shaped down. Oh my, look at this. We only have half of it, but I've never found one made out of stone before. Usually they're made out of slate. It's half of a stone, and I hate to even call them this, but everyone knows them as gorgets, because nobody knows what these were for. And a gorget being a piece of armor or protectant for the throat, they don't know if that's what it was. This one is just broken right in half. Hope you can see that better. I can see abrasion marks on it, and you can see how it's all squared off right there. And we only have half of it, and there's no sign of a drilled hole, so the drilled part was probably broken off with the other half. What this would have looked like, it would have been probably the same on this side, and it would have came out probably about that big. And usually they'll have two holes drilled there and one there. Sometimes you'll find an odd hole drilled in there. But you can clearly see abrasion marks on that where they've rubbed and shaped that. Very cool. And like I say, these are usually made out of slate, and sometimes they'll have little tiny notches in the side, just filed into the side, which people call tally marks. Now what they were tallying up, I don't know, but I think it was either a war trophy or it was some kind of contact sporting event at the time. A gorget. And these come from early woodland times, probably 2,800 years ago. Still a mystery to archaeologists today what these were used for, or even were their purpose. We have another piece down in here. It's not as good as the first one, but it's another hematite piece. Look at that. It's smaller. Let me get you in the sun here. It's a lot smaller, but you can see the facet that has been rubbed on that. Just held just like that. A native probably 1,000 years ago just held in his hand like that and rubbed that on a stone. Look at that. Nice piece. Yeah, we're doing pretty well. I like that. And another hematite piece. Now, I get this question all the time. Why did natives leave all this stuff behind? Well, you have to think about it. It's made out of stone mostly. And the stone isn't going anywhere. Unless you pulverize it into a powder, it's going to end up somewhere. And it usually ended up covered up under the ground, right up here above these water sources where natives lived. And I would say that 98% of the stuff that I find down here on the beaches of the river are not lost, not shot and lost, or not dropped and lost, but a lot of it was. I think most of it was people moved up here, and they may have lived here for 50, 60, 80 years until that 100-year flood hit. And when you live back on the backs, now out here in the channel of the river, the water would have been moving swiftly. But up in these fields where people lived, it didn't move swiftly. It just backed up in there. And after the water comes up, they probably gathered up as much stuff as they could and got out of there before they got flooded. And after the water receded, you come back, you're not going to find anything in 12 inches of that fluff and clay mud that's left behind from floods. I'm sure you've seen it. And you're especially not going to find those little things, those little projectiles and knives and artifacts that we're finding. It would have been lost under that mud. And they probably would have told their children and their children, don't live in that area because the water does get up there. We saw it several years ago. Until a few generations later, everything's forgotten. And more people probably moved in there. Another 100-year flood, and then it covers it all up again. And I think that is why there are so many artifacts right here in these fields above. And these artifacts were not lost on these beaches. They were lost up in this field. But every time the river comes up and floods, it knocks chunks of that field down here, and it's all underwater, and all the artifacts slide down under the water because it's all stratified and get trapped under this sand. There's another piece in here now. It's broken. It looks like the bottom of a little knife blade. Yeah, we just got the bottom corner of it there. And this probably wouldn't have been very big. Probably just would have been about like this right here. And that's how much we've got of it. Wow. This stuff's deep. Way under there. Try to get under it. Slowly bring it up. Let's just look through it together. Some large stones in here. Some of them feel really smooth, you know, but I think that's just natural. A lot of these, most of these, you see these little fired red stones everywhere. Well, they started out as a larger stone like this, but after they've been around a campfire and fired for so much, they get brittle and they've all busted up into little tiny pieces like that. Here's some flint, just a shard. Oh my gosh, look at this. We just found something incredible. Look what just flipped out. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's another Adena point. Oh, it's even bigger than the first one. Let me get you in the sun. Oh, look at that. That is beautiful. Beautiful, I say. It looks to be made out of Crooksville chert from Ohio, a high-grade Crooksville chert. I can see some little orange spots in there. That's a high trade of Crooksville chert. That is a nice piece right there. Very nice piece. I like that. Now, I don't know if that was a projectile. I think it may have been a little knife blade. There is a little bit of favoring on that one side, but you could have shot something with that. Could have shot something with that. Very nice piece right there. Oh, that is the find of the day right there. Find of the day. Very nice one right there. We better check the rest of that screen just to make sure there's nothing else in there. Some of this stuff can be very small. I should probably put 1/4 inch screen in here, but that stuff is so slow when you're sifting. I'm not seeing anything else in this one. That's going to do it for today. You come back now.